Hey, welcome back to the Monday All Weekend live show. We got a little bit to talk about today.
Woo!
Good job.
You're
Good.
excited for this.
Woo!
Look,
I
I'm
I
always
mean,
happy to record. Always
yeah, I'm
happy to
happy to
record.
record too. I feel like this is gonna be fun. I guess I want to address a comment real quick in the chat to
All
kind of
right.
start out. Um, Nikita mentioned us talking about. I guess we can show
Argyle.
this.
No.
Talk about
We're,
the
I don't
strike
want to.
ending.
Look,
I'm just gonna
okay.
mention we did talk about it on our podcast that's coming out on Friday. We actually went and broke down some of the terms and everything.
Yeah. We looked it over and we're our podcast on Friday is coming out. I wanted to address the important thing that she
Oh,
requested.
let's-
Argyle. Argyle, the new trailer. We didn't do a reaction to this. Um, it's not that it's not really, uh, we shouldn't have. We just didn't, right? You know what I
Yeah, did
mean?
we miss it or something? Or did
I
it just recently come out?
So I think what happened
it
is
just came out.
last
It
week.
literally just came out.
Well, last week, Wyatt, I think it was out, and
Uh-huh.
we started talking, discussing a few things, and then we're like, oh, we should talk about Rick and Morty, and then we never got to Argyle, and now here
Yeah,
we
but I
are.
feel like I would have seen Argyle.
I've
Uh,
been seeing some memes from it.
well,
Have
look,
you not seen the memes?
I've seen like the
The
Dua
Henry
Lipa
Cavill
stuff, but
memes.
well, listen,
it says 4 days ago. It wasn't um the trailer wasn't out when we did our Rick and Morty thing.
right. So Argyle is just. I'm not going to show. I'm not going to actually play it because sometimes they get copyright stuff, and I don't
Mhm.
want to do that on the live. But it's basically this action story about a writer and
Mhm.
secret agents. It's got Henry Cavill in a crazy do.
Yeah, he's got the flat
And
top.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like, um, who does he look like?
He looks
He
like
looks like Guile from Street Fighter.
yeah,
You guys
sure.
know
Right.
Guile from Street Fighter.
I was gonna say our grandpa wasn't as like big and strong, but our grandpa had a flat top.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think the viewers
I
know
don't.
what your grandpa looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah, they probably
he
don't,
also
but
wasn't a secret agent. But listen, let's get into this. So we
I don't
watched the
know,
trailer.
maybe.
We watched the trailer before we got going, and we are going to
Yeah.
talk about the creator at length. So
Yes.
let's not stay
Oh,
on this
yes.
too long. But my first thoughts watching the trailer for Argyle is it's for me sort of a so I enjoy action. I really do. I
Mhm.
enjoy the fun side of it. I enjoy the jokes. I enjoy Bullet Train. I enjoy these types of movies. I, however, did not enjoy The Kingsman. All right.
Yeah,
And
me
this is
neither.
from the director of The
True.
Kingsman.
It
And
is
Uh,
so
true.
there's the part of me that's like worried for this. I love John Wick. I love, like I said, the Bullet Train, similar vein, different creators. So I'm curious as to how this turns out, and ultimately this is kind of like a fun one-time watch. Honestly, it doesn't have me super excited, but it does have my interest to know that if it comes out on streaming, I will watch it. I don't think I'm going to go to the theaters, however, to watch this
mhm.
movie, right?
Yeah, and I agree with Nikita, saying that, she enjoys the dumb, stylish, fun action comedies. I do
Mhm.
too. They're kind like
Mhm.
Bullet Train,
Right.
like Night and Day. These kind of one-off, one
Wasn't
movie, action comedy type things that they're fun. I don't. Yeah, she's right. I don't need more Fast and Furious, Meg, Expendables. Blech.
didn't
Right.
Johnny Depp do one called like Mordecai or something?
Mordecai.
That
Or
really rings a bell.
Johnny Depp, it was like he was a detective with this really curly mustache. I thought it was Mordecai, but it might not be.
He
I'm
did
not sure
that
what it's
one with
called.
Angelina Jolie, but that wasn't like a comedy.
No, it was actually a comedy, like, detective thing.
um,
He was with, the
Google it real quick. Google it real
okay,
quick.
yes.
So you're to address
Talking about the
Nikita,
Kingsman
the
here.
Kingsman. Yes. No, honestly, look, there was something crazy about that church scene, and I'm gonna be honest, that put me off.
Yeah?
Okay, this is hot take. All right,
Mm.
not everyone holds this opinion. This is a personal opinion.
Mhm.
I have no problem with violence. I have no problem with gore. Game of Thrones, top tier, right? However, I don't like graphic violence. And in some ways, I'm a bit hypocritical. Okay, there it is, Joshua. I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Mordecai. I'm a bit hypocritical because I find like Seth Rogen movies funny, and there's sometimes comedic graphic violence.
Mhm.
But overall, like with that scene specifically, it really struck a nerve in me that was like, this is not for me. I think
Mhm.
it's almost disrespectful to the human being how
And
violent it is and how
when well, also it was like super crazy what's that church called? So yeah, it can be offensive to Christians. Now we understand that the church that it's supposed to be is that one, you know which church I'm talking about, that crazy one where they're like talking
the
about,
No.
Westboro Baptist Church.
yes, Westboro Baptist, right? That's
Ah.
it's a joke on that and how kind of terrible that
Yeah,
environment
but
is.
honestly, like
And
that wasn't the part that bothered me. There's other movies that's done this where it's almost disrespecting to, I guess, the human person, like
yeah,
violence that
well,
negates the weight of someone losing their life,
more
you
than
know?
that kind of being, I guess, a little bit offensive. Uh I was really into like um martial arts movies when that movie came out.
Right.
And so I had just watched
Yeah.
tons of movies with Bruce Lee and Donnie Yen and Jackie Chan. So I knew kind of what movie action
Mhm.
cinematography should look like with good, just all of that. And that
Mhm.
movie felt like, it felt weird. It felt
Right.
It didn't feel
disjointed.
good to you?
I didn't enjoy watching those action scenes in The Kingsman, especially coming off of some of the movies, where they're doing one take scenes of these guys kind of almost improving action with each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Uh,
John Wick?
I don't think John Wick was out at that
No,
time,
John Wick came after the first Kingsman, I believe.
but
Oh, okay.
John Wick is better action cinematography.
It is, and the creators kind of focus on that, and I believe if my memory serves me, you guys can correct me if I'm mistaken,
Mhm.
but I believe there's a lot of visual effects and animation for the fight scenes in The Kingsman. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot
Yeah,
I
there is.
don't know. I
I
wasn't
mean,
into the
it's
Kingsman.
almost like a balance between John Wick and The Matrix, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
he uses special effects heavily or not at all, and it's like blending the 2,
Yeah, and
which is a
I
style.
was just coming off of movies where they were using lots of practical effects, wire gags, mats and all this other sort of stuff, and I was not into the using visual effects to augment your
Right,
fight
right,
scene.
right, right, right. Let's see, like, I know a lot of Indians, in India were put off and offended by seeing their religious, Hindu book, the Bhagavad Gita. I always screw up pronouncing that. Bhagavad Gita, used in the sex scene in Oppenheimer. Yeah, that was a whole thing we didn't even touch on,
Mhm.
how,
Yeah.
Oppenheimer quotes Chris Nolan chose to put the initial quoting of Oppenheimer having, like, after his affair with Florence Pugh,
Post-coitus.
poise with nipples out, right?
Mhm.
Nipples out,
Yeah.
and that was a bit. I can understand that that would probably be offensive. I didn't even
Mhm.
think about that, but since it's a part of their culture, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Especially since they're am I correct? Indian culture is relatively conservative. Like Hinduism is a relatively, as far as modesty goes, pretty conservative, right?
I
Am
think so.
I am I
Yeah.
correct in that?
I don't know.
It fronts
I'm not
conservative,
gonna
right?
yeah, I don't know anything about it, so
Um,
I'm
but
not
with
even
all
gonna
that
try.
said, I don't wanna slam on, Argyle too much until I do see it. I am a
Yeah.
little worried though, personally, but I
I'm
really
not
wanna get
worried.
into the
I'm not worried. I what I see is another, action comedy, I
right.
don't think there's anything to be worried
Yeah.
about.
I mean, it's Apple
Well,
TV,
yes.
so it's it's their next thing that they're doing that's fun,
Mhm.
and it's showing Henry Cavill. So I feel like it's worth watching. If you have Apple TV, and it's like this could be a Friday, night
Yeah,
home back
definitely.
from work, and you just want to enjoy a good movie.
Definitely.
Mm.
Let's get in the creator. I've been
Yes.
saving so many of my thoughts. I haven't had a good conversation about it. So first of all, I was going to go to a regular viewing, and then my friend Josh and his wife Romy that I went with, they were like, "Let's do IMAX." We haven't seen an IMAX movie before, and I had just watched Oppenheimer in IMAX, so I went to the exact same theater to watch the creator.
Mm.
And when I finished that movie, all right, this almost the last 30 minutes of the movie, the last 40 minutes of the movie, for real, I think it's my new dad energy
Yeah.
got me teary-eyed 5 times.
Yeah.
5
Yeah.
times it got me teary-eyed.
Yeah,
And
there were a
then
couple really intense moments, I would say in the third act that
right.
that were that
It
it didn't get me crying or nothing, but it was close.
it got me hard, and I'll be honest,
Wait, what?
it got me
What?
What?
crying, profusely. How about that? Good grief.
I know I said this as a joke to both you guys, but if there was any more explosions, some would think that Michael Bay directed this film.
That was another thought I had. It most of the time, these action movies give you, like, 2 or 3 strong action sequences.
Explosions
This was, like, every 3 minutes,
was
action or explosions. It,
Mm.
like interwove
Well, I mean,
action and drama together.
this director's the same guy who did Rogue One. How many explosions and things were in that movie?
Right.
Right?
But
it
sort of,
was
but there's
good.
almost more
Nothing looked bad.
story. There was almost more or slower beats in Rogue One. Story's wrong. I think The Creator is a much more deeper story than Rogue One was, but there was almost more slower moments in Rogue
Mhm.
One than The Creator. The Creator kept you just going the whole time. Now,
Excuse me.
when I finished the movie,
Mhm.
drying my eyes, right, looking at the credits roll, cheering a little bit when I saw Greg Fraser's name.
Yeah.
In the theater,
In the
we
theater.
mockingly went, "Wow, yeah,
For
yeah!"
Greg Fraser, right?
If it were
Heck yeah.
Joe were here.
I was doing it. I was doing
Mhm.
it. Josh didn't know who I was cheering for. And I stood up, and my brain now I've been meditating for the past 2 day and a half on this,
Yeah.
so I don't hold the same opinion currently. But
Mm.
when I stood up and I was walking out of the theater, my brain was like, "That is a 10 out of a 10 movie. 10 out of 10."
Yeah. No.
Now listen, I don't currently hold that,
Okay.
but
What would you give it now then? Just let us know.
I give it an 8, all right? I give it
I
an
would say
8.
it's probably, about an 8. About an
I
8.
have
I was so pleased. As soon as the movie was over, I was so happy with it. It took me
Mm.
2 days for me to have a realistic view of this movie because I was so happy with it.
So I kind of wrote down a list of things that I noticed about flaws that are in the movie that don't necessarily make it a worse movie or a
Mhm.
bad movie, but just things that I noticed that I wanted to talk about and see if you got what you guys think.
Go
So I
for it.
wrote down there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell almost a lot of different stories.
Yeah.
We've got things going on with the AI, things going on with the American military, things going on with our main characters, subplots that don't get resolved, stuff like that. It feels
Right.
like there was a lot happening.
Almost
Did it
It
how did it feel? Did it feel a little
So
crowded?
to me, I would agree with that, but how I say, I wish they had a lot of that, but they gave us 15, maybe not even 15 minutes, but 10 minutes of the film where it was more slower of
Mhm.
him and the kid
Yeah.
kind of doing their thing, and we didn't get that. And I was honestly expecting a good chunk of the film to be just him and the kid kind of traveling
Say
and it
Yeah.
be kind of
Josh
slow.
and Alfie, not him and the kid.
Okay,
Josh
Josh
and
and
Alfie.
Alfie.
We're professionals over here.
Josh and Alfie just kind of traveling and it's slow and people aren't really like they're chasing him, but it's like still slow because they're just like
Mhm.
traveling. And we didn't get that. And so I would agree with what you're saying.
Honestly, the only to build off Wyatt's point, the only thing I really felt like wasn't a real issue for me, the friend narrative felt pushed in. It
Little
that
shoe.
shoehorned for the sake of exposition, and literally that first scene where they did a voiceover work of just a big exposition drop as soon as he starts, like when he analyzes Alfie's spinners or whatever, the
Mhm.
brain, and then as Alfie's like looking out the window, we don't even
Mhm.
cut back to the friend's face saying this because it was for sure a voiceover.
Yeah.
Just huge exposition drop to get them to the next act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, and they dedicated a whole section of the movie to that where they showed a title that said "The Friend" or whatever, and I felt like
Mhm.
that wasn't significant enough. But that's really my biggest issue with the whole film is that section.
So I
Right?
wanna I have other things, but because you mentioned the friend, and I think one of my biggest examples involves him. The dialogue for me was a little. What was the verbiage I used, Josh, when we were at the movies?
I'm not I can't remember.
It was just a little choppy. It
Mhm.
wasn't like corny. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was just a little. I don't know. He's like,
It felt so much better than Rogue One, though.
it felt the same
Yes.
as Rogue One to me.
Not
I'm
at
gonna be
all.
honest.
It
Yes.
felt better
It
to
was
me.
much
No, no,
more
no.
intelligent
Okay. All right.
writing.
This isn't verbatim, but the friend says, that's the girl we need you to go undercover with. Her father is Nirmata. Uh,
Yeah.
man, don't fall in love with her. Don't go native on me.
He
I'm
does,
not
yes.
look,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it verbatim, but that 100% is the delivery, and it was that simple. There were a
Mhm.
lot of things that were that simple where, like, at the beginning, they're in the house. Uh, the troopers come in. Um, they capture the one guy. He picks up the radio, and in his
Mhm.
2-bedroom house with an upstairs and a downstairs, I'm undercover, guys. I'm undercover. And then
Yeah,
he's
blow your cover.
surprised when his girlfriend is like,
What?
What?
I'm undercover.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There
There
definitely
was a
was
lot
like
of dialogue like that, especially involving like the American strike team and the I don't even know, the captain lady captain.
Let me see what her name is. Colonel Howell. Howell?
Colonel Howell. Yeah, and
I
like the
believe that's
way
it.
she when they're showing him the footage of her to
Mhm.
get him on board, and she just kind of like starts a story,
Mhm.
right? She's sitting behind him. I was like, "Whoa, where did she come from?" I don't
Must
yeah.
know.
be.
There were a couple like the dialogue was
It definitely wasn't the best dialogue ever.
mm.
I think it was leaps and bounds better than Rogue One. Go back and watch
Here's
Rogue One.
Yeah, go back and watch Rogue
You'll
One.
freaking
It's not the dialogue, it's the interactions between the people. There's no
sure.
depth, but the
Nothing.
dialogue is the same.
Maybe. Okay, but I think maybe there's a few weak actors in this bunch.
I don't think it was
Um,
the actors.
look,
I
I
thought
didn't
the actors were
every
fine.
No,
no,
the actors were good.
I'm saying like the side actors to deliver certain lines because everything that came out of Josh's mouth, I believed. Like he
Yeah.
didn't feel like he had any big exposition dumps, and maybe it's just the skill of John David Washington delivering lines. I don't know,
Mm.
but and maybe his dad is Denzel, so I
Well,
don't
he was
know.
fine. His sort of I don't know. He has a way of delivering his lines that feels a little bit more smooth and casual, like a
Mhm.
human
Yes.
delivered the lines, whereas some of the others it felt a little robotic.
Sure, and I'll secede that, but the thing is, okay, we can I get look, you can't laugh at your own joke
I'm
that
sorry,
hard.
it's tickling me for some reason.
Um,
Also, Josh's delayed
Yeah.
kind of got
so
me.
I gotta get into all the incredible things about this movie, all right? Because,
I'm not,
Okay.
hold
Yeah.
on,
There
I'm
was a lot
almost
of.
done. I'm
all
almost
right,
done.
hurry
Okay.
up because it's such a good movie, it's almost disrespectful to linger so long
Look,
on the
they
negatives.
they never address the interesting concepts like the robot's relationship with religion and death. They show a lot of it, but they
No,
never.
that's not true.
No, no,
The
no.
whole thing was about death and where you
Yeah, it
go
is,
after the end.
but they. I'm talking specifically about the AI themselves. I wanted to know about what their thoughts on it were.
And but what we saw was more of Alfie learning about this idea of turning
Yeah.
off or
Right,
going to
but
heaven, you
but
know? You
with
want an
Joshua.
experienced AI's opinion on
I
this.
wanted to know, like, what do they who do they believe in? What do they believe in?
Sure.
And then, uh, oh, and then I think the biggest thing for me was, are the robots, like, what it was the ethical questions with the robots, 'cause, Ken Watanabe's character says, um, "We just want peace. Even if we win this war,
Well, he says,
nothing
"If
will
we
happen to the
win"
West.
yeah,
Mhm.
nothing happens to
Nothing's
the
gonna
West.
happen. We just want peace." Then proceeds to twist a silencer onto a gun and go to shoot Joshua, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wait a second. I wanna know, are
What's the
they."
reasoning behind this?
No, I just wanna know, are they like, "We're willing to go through anybody to get our peace? We're
Mhm.
willing to kill humans for our peace?" I wanted to explore
Well,
the ethical dilemmas of what's going on in the
Yeah.
robots' heads a
what
little bit.
well, okay, on that with that specific scenario, the whole
Mm,
film is they are this close to annihilation, like
mhm.
extinction.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. There almost doesn't have to that be explained
Y
where you
but
are literally
No.
you're
if you're
scratching for
so
life at the
close,
end.
if you're so close to annihilation,
I would agree with
why
that.
why are you still willing to be peaceful? And I just wanted them to be like, "We're willing to do anything. We're willing to
Well, it's
I
kill
would
pretty much
agree
anybody
with
to be
Wyatt. I
peaceful."
think I think there
I
is
just
an
wanted to
aspect of that.
explore. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I agree with Wyatt. There was a lack in that. It showed it from the human side, but I don't think it showed it from the other side. And so it they kind of cut out what we would see in most, I guess, artificial intelligent movies
Mhm.
like, iRobot, where they
mm,
specifically say, like, these are the three laws.
Yeah.
Robot can't do this. And then it's like, well, the robots are doing this. So they kind of go into that. This movie kind of just totally skipped over that and didn't give us
Well,
any
yeah.
of that. They
They
didn't
well,
have to fully go into it. They just give us something small to kind of.
they go to the extent of being like, the robots are good. They show us
Mhm.
lots and lots and lots of evidence. The robots are good. All they want is peace. But then there's this one interesting moment, this
Yeah.
one dark, kind of scary moment where Ken Watanabe points a gun at the main character and
mhm,
is going to kill him. That
mhm.
was like the most interesting things about the robots to
Yeah.
me.
Look,
That
this
would have
is
given it more depth, but
going into the rules of AI or robotics and everything. Yeah, you can get into that, but remember, this has been a part of society in this world for a long time. Also, they at this point care. Like the whole point of this movie is that there's connections as deep as regular human connections
Mm.
with not only each other but with humans as well. And
Yeah.
so Ken Watanabe, his character, what does Josh represent? Not only annihilation for himself and AI and robots. Don't think
Mm.
of it as it's protecting this little girl. It's protecting
Mhm.
maybe someone that an
Yeah.
AI person that means
Yeah,
something to him,
I
right?
just want to,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a little bit more exposition like that is like,
Well, I don't feel
these
I
are
don't
why
feel
I'm
like
doing these things. And then they hang out with the robots and they're like, this is why we are doing these things. This is how we justify the human lives that we take.
but
Yeah.
they had done so much work to literally show the humanization of the AI up to that point where I don't
No,
feel
no, no.
like they
I
needed
don't
that
mean the
exposition.
the
Okay.
humanization. I just mean the justification for the robots.
Mhm.
You know, because
Okay.
we know that they're peaceful. We just need the
They're scared.
I just needed something more because I just needed something more
Alright, that makes sense.
on that specific thing.
Okay. Do you have any other points you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah, I just the last thing was one thing that annoyed me in the movie at the very end was they're running through the spaceship
Mhm.
and they just keep switching back to the command center. It's like, General, Josh was in a escape pod.
Alright, and he keeps telling him,
General, Josh was
"Stop
in
him.
a hallway. General,
Stop. Kill him. Shoot him.
General.
Close him off."
That
And
was a
it's like
little bit goofy to me because it's like it's supposed to be advancing the thing, but they just keep going, General.
for some reason, they keep like, they don't do anything that the general says. Like,
Nope.
he keeps saying, "Stop him, shoot him," and they just don't. He keeps giving commands that they don't do. Now, that was a bit silly. The cutting back and forth was a bit extensive there.
Hmm.
And also the general character, I don't feel like we need as much general character, you know what I mean?
Who
Yeah,
played
I
the
was
general character? Because I recognized him. I feel like I recognized him, but I didn't recognize him.
I seen him. I mean, a lot of people recognize him from the UK Office back in the day.
yeah.
He was on that show, but I haven't kept up with him. I don't know what other movies he's been in.
Having the two different kind of villains. We had the lady boss captain
Well, she
villain
was middle
and
ground
Yeah.
Colonel.
because
Yeah, but I think if they had carried her character through all the way, you didn't really need the big general.
correct. We didn't
Didn't
need the
need
big
the
general.
big general.
Didn't
Yeah.
need him.
No. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that just makes it not to get too far off. But look, this is a comment from Nikita where she says the story being a little too divertive, but so is Avatar. Derivative, sorry. But so is Avatar. That actually, like the big general thing, does make me think of Avatar. It's like that trope that you have to have the big bad guy in charge, right? I didn't feel like this story needed that, but they gave it to us. Now, let's get on the good points, please,
Okay,
because there's so much.
I've got something. I've got my 2 cents on this.
Okay.
My favorite part of this movie, and there was a lot that was good and I enjoyed about this movie, but the thing that I think was so good, and we didn't even watch it in IMAX, was the soundtrack and the sound mixing of the movie was top tier. I mean, we weren't even in an IMAX theater, and like, I literally am looking. Is there something on the side of the theater? Because it just like
Mhm.
I can hear something to the right of me, and it
Right.
was so good. And then
Yes.
Yeah.
also, you said
Hans
it was
Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer was the guy who did the score.
Yep.
Fantastic score.
Yeah, the
And
score was
the
awesome.
end when the spaceship's coming down and there's drums and a big band orchestra.
Close up of
Fantastic.
Alfie just
Yeah.
fighting between tears of joy and tears of
Mm.
sorrow. Man, what a brilliant moment of cinema the end of that movie
Yes.
was. That last
Yeah.
shot just rips you apart emotionally.
Yeah.
That
I
little
want to
girl
just watch
freaking
that scene again.
And
She
can we mention the
deserved.
almost 2001-esque, because Josh mentions the drums. It goes bum bum
Yes.
bum
Yeah.
bum bum bum.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like 2001. This is like a space odyssey. And then it
Yes.
ends and
Freaking
I'm
okay.
curious if there was any of that, if like the director was kind of pulling from that a little bit, because now that you say that,
I feel like that had to have been a big inspiration.
yeah, that
because
had to have been because
that big drum thing is so recognizably 2001.
We gotta give some flowers to Madeline. Look,
Yeah.
incredible performance. for
Mhm.
such a young
Oh yeah.
age. Incredible
I
performance.
at the start of the movie, I wasn't sure I was gonna be convinced, but as they go along and she's delivering her lines and her dialogue along with, John David, I'm like, "Yeah, this is
Whew.
good."
And obviously, like, it
The first time she says "off,"
yeah.
he's like, "He's not dead,
Yeah.
he's not dead, he's just off."
Oh, yeah.
And then the other dude, I think, dies in the back seat, and she goes, "Off." I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"That was nice."
Okay, and also, like, I think this is when the tears started flowing for me, but
This
when
early?
no, not this early, not at the off scene. Well,
Oh,
kind of.
okay.
So when they get to Mother,
Mhm.
and without even, like, really describing what has to happen here to Alfie, it's like she understands and that he's gonna turn her off, basically, and when she says, like, "Goodbye, Mother,"
Mm.
and oh my gosh.
So
There's so many strong moments of interpersonal connection
mhm.
between
Yeah,
characters and family and mothers and daughters and fathers and daughters. Freaking there's so much here. This is at its core a father-daughter movie,
mm.
and
And
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I wanna mention because I thought the movie was gonna go in a different direction. If you haven't seen the movie, I guess mute us for the next minute or so.
Well, we've been spoiling a lot
Yeah.
already.
Well,
Already.
so the Colonel lady, downloads the brain of the mom, and she's freshly dead, so,
Mhm.
I'm guessing she's getting basically the whole thing. And then John David manages to get the stick with her memory on it,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he carries it with him all the way up to the ship, and then he gives it to Alfie, and I was like, "Oh, so she's gonna take it to Earth, he's gonna
Yeah.
die, and her mother's gonna be able to take care of her,"
Which is
right?
what I expected
That's
also.
what I expected. Now I'm not disappointed necessarily at what happened. I mean, for the characters, obviously, it's sad,
Right.
but for him to be able to see her at the end and for it to be her,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that was
think it was important, I think, for the story that, Ken Watanabe's character is convinced that Alfie is going to die in the process of saving, millions of AI lives,
mhm,
and then at the end, with the help of her father, essentially,
yeah,
and mother, in some ways, or not sort of mother, I guess what mother has done in the past, she was able to not die and still win the day, you know?
mhm,
And she was able to live on, and the father was able to be with his wife one last time. Beautiful.
mhm.
I did hear, Critical Drinker's take on this, said that there's a lot of
Yeah.
Put out
parallels.
a video.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels between Rogue One and this movie, and it makes sense. It's the last movie Gareth Edwards directed,
Mm.
Mhm.
but yeah, Rogue One, and then,
Well,
Godzilla was before that.
I
Uh,
can see kind of like Rogue One being the kind of story he wants to tell of these interactions between, children and their parents and, what it means to kind of sacrifice and then, um, and that kind of be the story he wants to tell.
right.
But then ultimately, it's just Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Do you
limited by
guys
Star Wars.
we do have to cut it off eventually. I feel like we
Mm.
could talk about this forever, but is there anything specifically that you wanted to bring up kind of as the last topic? Because, we can't talk about this forever.
I
We can
love
make
that.
this a
Look,
2-hour
I
stream.
mean, I actually could talk about the movie for a long time. It's
Yeah, I
good
could too.
stuff, it's flaws, it's music, the visuals, good grief.
yeah, by the way,
Beautiful.
$90 million budget, okay?
$90 million. So
Yeah,
you do not have to make a movie that looks and feels this good for $300 million.
You don't.
Marvel, Disney, that's you
Mhm.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is gonna be loved more than the recent Marvel Disney
Oh, yeah.
stuff,
I
or
definitely
Star
think this
Wars,
would be
right?
around People will still be talking about this in a couple years, where
Definitely.
specific other films that came out this year just,
So, okay, my question at the end of this here is we talked about kind of the new age um of movies, kind of the next, I because I think we're going to get a lot of sci-fi stuff like this. Do you think this movie's a good, a good representation of what we could see in the future?
I think so, but here's the thing. So Gareth Edwards took a long break. He
Hmm.
really mulled over this story and what he wanted to do. He really took his time with it, and then he didn't demand a lot of money from the industry to get it done, you know?
Hmm.
He really relied on people that he already knew and worked with and could do his vision. And they filmed it on a camera that is $3,000, all right? Not
Yeah.
Yeah.
a $50,000 ARRI camera. So this is changing the industry, but I don't know if the industry this has potential to change the industry, especially when people see the rate of return to cost, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know if the industry is going to pivot this hard because it really takes a creative mind and a motivated, goal-oriented mind to create something like this. And this is good storytelling, which is so unique compared to the crap we've seen recently.
But I mean, people also want sci-fi. I mean, just we talked about the YouTube channel Dust. I mean, people are making sci-fi stuff
Right.
all the time. People want it.
Nonstop. Let's see. Let's answer a few of these questions. Or comments. Next week's going to be great for sci-fi to Dune
Next year,
2
she meant.
next year.
Next-
Yeah.
She
Um,
corrected herself in the next
yeah,
comment.
I see that. Yes, this is a good time for sci-fi, and we did hit up to talk about kind of like what's the next generation of popular genres, and we kind
And
of hit
sci-fi's in there.
sci-fi is going to be in there for a while, but there's also a level of who are the creators more so than the genre itself. You know, that's kind of where we landed, um, and we appreciate it. I personally, I don't think I can do on a Monday night another hour of this because I do have things I have to do, and I have to make sure
Mhm.
when my baby wakes up, make sure I'm helping out my wife, put her back to sleep,
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So I'd love to talk for 2 hours on a Monday night, but unfortunately, I don't have the
Yeah.
time.
Really quickly, let's you already said 8, Joseph. Wyatt, what would you give this film?
I don't know.
Well, hold on, mull over it. Let me show you real quick what the people are saying about this movie on Rotten Tomatoes. Does that sound good?
Well, I
Before
don't want to
you
be
rate it.
influenced by them.
Well, you're not going to be
Uh,
influenced by them.
No,
I'm
no.
gonna say a 7.5.
I'm gonna say 8. I enjoyed it to be an 8.
All right. So the over verified audience 77%, all audience 75%. It's not. It's a decent pool. It's 1,000 plus. I'd like to
Mhm.
see 5,000 plus personally.
Yeah.
And then the critics. I mean, it's in the middle of the road for most people. And I personally, I rated it a little higher, but I loved it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna love watching it multiple times. As far as storyline concepts go, look, I love Avatar. All right. This is a better story to me than Avatar, but I still love Avatar.
I would
I
agree.
think it's
I
it's
would
a better
agree.
story. And
I
so
would
again,
I
I
would
gotta
say
say I
it's
love it.
not anything we haven't seen before. Not like super original, but it was good. It was a well-told story. It was all the things that I like to see from a story like this.
Right. So what did you rate it? You rated a 7 what?
7.5, 7.5.
And I'm
7.5.
rating it a 8 with you. I'm right there with you with an 8 because I would agree 100%. It is similar to Avatar, but Avatar, the story here was a lot better in my opinion.
Something Nikita was saying earlier, something addressing Wes Anderson. So let's see. She heard that Wes Anderson dropped 4 short films on Netflix based on
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dolls, right? Short
I
stories.
haven't seen them. I was gonna go watch. I heard that they came out, but I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
If Yeah, if well, it says if yeah, she said don't like Asteroid City or French Dispatch. If you don't like Wes Anderson,
I'm not a Wes
probably not
Anderson.
for you.
I haven't
I'm
even
I'm
not
watched Asteroid
into
City
Wes
yet.
I
Anderson.
enjoy Wes Anderson
I do too.
because I really kind of appreciate that sort of art style. It's something you don't see a lot.
And humor. I
And
mean,
humor,
there's a
yeah,
lot of
kind of a
humor in Wes
good
Anderson.
dry delivery of things. But no, I haven't seen it. But I definitely feel like since I like Wes Anderson, that I need to check it out.
Yeah, I think I need to watch Asteroid City. I know
Mhm.
a lot of people aren't. Here's the thing with Wes Anderson. Even if I don't like the story, I can still love the cinematography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he lacks in one place, he makes up
Mm.
for it in another. So I can still appreciate it even if I don't care for kind of like what the
And
story is.
even if it's not something you're gonna watch over and over again, it's cool to
Love to
experience
watch it once.
the piece.
Liked Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
Mhm.
Didn't like his last 2 films because the stories and style was a bit too overindulgent. Now that's interesting because Wyatt has a you kinda said something similar, haven't you? Like, stylized just for the sake of stylized?
I get upset with that a lot, but he is intentionally doing that. Stylized for the sake of stylized is almost his brand.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's fun. I like seeing how he takes the concept and what he does with it. It's one of those things where it's like I don't usually like over stylized things, but it's like it's so over stylized that it becomes interesting.
Well,
I
you
don't
didn't like how stylized Peaky Blinders was. Was that the show that you didn't care
know.
for?
Mm-mm.
What
No,
was
it
it?
wasn't Peaky Blinders. It was
There was a stylized series. Was it Ozark? There was some sort of stylized series that I was really singing praises over, and you said, it's a little
I don't
too."
know. I don't remember.
This is a while back. I
Yeah.
have a feeling it was in the realm of Peaky Blinders,
I
but
don't think so because Peaky Blinders, it's not stylized. It's just
it's sort
it's
later in the season it is.
history-ish.
It later in the season, it's very stylized.
Mm.
But I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, let's see. Way too much style and too little substance was a big issue, especially with Asteroid City, to the point where it severely distracted a take
Okay.
audience movies story. Yeah, so I sort of agree, sort
Mm.
of.
I'll
And
have to watch it.
I will say with French Dispatch, if you are not paying attention, you are lost.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
so
Agreed.
lost.
Agreed.
So, that's one downside, but I recently just rewatched it. It's very humorous and very fun, and they tell 3 different
Mhm.
stories in that movie, and the 3rd story is really complex with the guy who has a memory that he can recall anything that he's written down, I think.
Yeah.
And so anything he reads or whatever. And so that's a hard storyline to follow because of the literary nature of that
Mhm.
story. Whereas Timothy Chalamet's Revolution or that section of the film is a little easier to follow. But I
Mhm.
like it. It's stylized, it's fun, it's humorous. I can't be mad at it.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we should go ahead and wrap. How
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
that?
I think so. Um, Thanks for
Thanks
joining
for
us on
yeah.
Monday all weekend. If you enjoyed this, like this playback of this live, and be looking out for the main podcast will be coming out at noon on Friday. We're talking
Right.
about the writers' strike and the specific terms that they've come to agreement on that. We also talked about some AI generated podcast
Well, no, it's not AI
in the
generated. It's
in the
metaverse.
metaverse,
Metaverse podcasting.
metaverse-based podcast,
Right,
and
and
so that was
we
fun.
also look a little bit into the inspiration and the creation of the new Austin Butler film, Bike Riders. So, we hit a whole bunch of cool stuff
Mhm.
on this week's podcast. It's coming out Friday at noon, Eastern
Mhm.
Standard Time. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with us,
Thank you, Nikita.
Nikita. We're just
Yeah.
gonna keep shouting you out as long as you show up. So
Yeah.
thank you. We really appreciate it. We're glad you're here to be an extra voice in this conversation. And we'll see you all next time Adios.
Mm.